In the demon realm, the Dragon King stood imposingly, looking down at me, Seiwo, who was kneeling on the ground, coughing up blood. A huge hole marked his chest. His breathing was weak and irregular. Seiwo coughed blood onto the floor. This guy has watched so much anime that he knows spitting blood automatically increases the drama by 300%. 100 years ago, a meteor from another world fell into the demon realm, the Dragon King declared. Although you have toyed with this realm, wielding that strange power, this is where your journey ends. He then told Seiwo to state his final wish, asking what desire had led him to seek out the dragon of the demon realm. Seiwo looked at the Dragon King with a firm gaze and, coughing, said he wanted to return to the place he called home. With blood running down his face, the Dragon King told Seiwo that, for someone who risked their life to challenge him, his wish was pathetically trivial. However, it was impressive that Seiwo had made it this far, knowing it was a wish that could never be granted. He added that Seiwo shouldn't feel bad, as the power to return home, the dimensional sphere, was inside his heart. Upon hearing this, Seiwo smiled. He asked the Dragon King if he had any idea how much he had suffered to find the dimensional sphere. It had been a full 100 years, 100 damn years in this cursed world. The Dragon King then raised his hand and told Seiwo to consider himself lucky, as he would end his insignificant existence right there and then. But before the attack could land, a sudden golden light enveloped him. Plot twist. Either he activated an invincibility hack, or he finally found the continue button after dying 1,000 times against this final boss. The light shone intensely, blocking the Dragon King's attack, and a magic circle appeared on the ground. The Dragon King had no idea what was happening. Clutching his bleeding hand, which had been cut by the light, he asked Seiwo what kind of light that was. He was even more shocked to see Seiwo's wounds healing, but soon realized it wasn't just normal healing, it was regeneration. Seiwo stood up, wiped the blood from his mouth, now fully healed, and asked the Dragon King if he would hand over the dimensional sphere willingly or if Seiwo would have to rip it out of his heart. The Dragon King panicked, realizing Seiwo was no ordinary warrior. With a calm smile, Seiwo gave him 3 seconds to hand over the sphere. When the time was up, Seiwo punched straight through the Dragon King's heart, saying he had waited long enough. The Dragon King's body collapsed lifeless to the ground, and in Seiwo's hand was the dimensional sphere. The guy literally pulled out an interdimensional subway pass from the boss's chest. That's the best loot I've ever seen. A voice out of nowhere belonged to Fry. Fry told Seiwo it was disappointing that he had spent 100 years just to end up with a demon dragon sphere. He called Seiwo a glutton and said he had weird tastes. Yeah, because swallowing a magic sphere is totally normal. Any moment now, this guy will turn into an anime protagonist and shoot Kamehameha blasts from his mouth. Seiwo corrected Fry, saying it was a dimensional sphere, not just a ball, and told him to shut up. He tossed the sphere into the air and swallowed it, causing a magic circle to appear beneath him. He smiled, knowing he was finally going home, to his disciples, his younger brother, and to Earth. Hopefully, he didn't forget his home Wi-Fi password. After 100 years, it's probably harder to remember than any dragon's riddle. Somewhere in a forest, Seiwo was lying on the ground. He woke up and got up. The first thing he did was call out to the parasite, referring to Fry. Fry responded, asking what Seiwo wanted and if he needed food, before saying he was busy vomiting from nausea inside Seiwo's stomach. Seiwo realized Fry had made it through in one piece and called him a disgusting creature, telling him to hurry up and get digested. Fry asked if he was sure about that, warning that the result wouldn't be pleasant. Looking around, Seiwo told Fry to shut up before he ended up throwing up himself. He asked if this place was Earth. I bet he was expecting to land in a futuristic skyscraper, not in the middle of the wilderness. Interdimensional travel never makes life easy. Fry mocked him for not recognizing his own home. Seiwo explained that Earth's landscape varied depending on the location. After observing for a moment, he noticed that the mana flow felt similar to inside a portal, but he wasn't sure. Fry commented that Seiwo smelled like a weakling. At first, Seiwo ignored it, but soon he panicked upon realizing something was wrong with his mana. He spent 100 years training in hell, returned home, and already lost his protagonist buff. It's like when you come back from vacation and forget everything you learned at work. Fry asked if Seiwo had been a fraud all along and said he was about to end their partnership. Annoyed, Seiwo replied that this problem had happened before. Fry asked what he meant by before. Seiwo explained that it seemed to be a side effect of interdimensional travel, just like when he was sent from Earth to another world 100 years ago. His attributes had plummeted absurdly. At that moment, he was only at 20% of his maximum strength. Only 20%? Oh, great, So he's just at the God of War level instead of Universe Destroyer. Fry laughed at Seiwa's weakened state and told him to recover quickly before he got kicked out. Seiwa was irritated, saying it wasn't that simple. Last time, it took him decades to fully recover. Hot, Fry said he was canceling their contract since he couldn't even use half of his incredible abilities with Seiwa's pathetic mana. Seiwa argued that his mana wasn't completely useless. Then he noticed someone. A girl was running, panting heavily. She murmured that she was screwed. She had lost her companions while running for her life. She had no idea if they were okay. But more importantly, she wondered why there was already an orc in the dungeon so early. Her life was so miserable that she was already thinking, did the game bug out? She screamed for help but tripped over a rock. As the orc approached, Seiwa effortlessly defeated it with a single punch and asked the girl if this place was Earth. This guy arrived so overpowered that the monsters probably already got a warning, if you see this man, play dead. Stunned, she stammered a yes. Seiwa asked again if it was Korea and what year it was. Still in shock over what he had done, she confirmed that it was Korea and the year was 2037. Seiwa calculated that he had been sucked into another dimension in 2027, wondering if 100 years in the demon realm had passed as only 10 years on Earth. Imagine disappearing for 10 years and coming back without a single gray hair. The family group chat on WhatsApp would have lost their minds thinking he had been abducted by aliens. He asked who the current president was. She answered, Choi Dae-soo. Seiwa was shocked, asking if she meant that muscle-headed idiot with one missing eye. The girl had no idea who he was talking about and assumed he was role-playing. The guy had basically returned to his world but had already turned into an old man telling stories no one understood. Seiwa couldn't believe Choi Dae-soo was president. He commented that there was probably no one better for the job. Well, maybe a golden retriever in a suit, but that dog would probably cause chaos in meetings. He then asked her if they were inside a portal, noticing the strange mana flow. Excited, she corrected him, saying it wasn't a portal but a tutorial tower. Seiwa had no idea what that was, so she explained. The tutorial tower had appeared a few years ago as a gateway for hunters. By completing it, hunters could awaken abilities and gain new techniques. The higher their awakening level, the better the guilds they could join. So, everyone rushed to complete it as quickly as possible. Hearing this, Seiwa commented that, in his time, people awaken just fine without this nonsense. All it took was a smack on the head from a master, and boom, instant awakening. He stretched and asked if finishing the tower was all it took to leave, wondering how long it usually took. She replied that, on average, it took 8 weeks, but skilled hunters could finish in 3 weeks. The record holder, Ruji-won, had completed it in 3 weeks. Seiwa thought about this while the girl panicked as a troll tiger approached. She instructed him to run, but Seiwa commented that 3 weeks was way too long. Just hearing that was enough to bore him. Even as the troll tiger got closer, Seiwa remained still, thinking with his eyes closed. The girl screamed at him, asking if the academy hadn't taught him to run from troll tigers. Of course they had. The first rule was, don't be slower than your friend. Before the creature could attack them, Seiwa shattered its teeth with a single punch, shocking the girl. He then declared that 5 days would be enough to clear the tower. And that's with him setting aside a day for sleep. Meanwhile, in the office of the Empire Guild Master, Min Sin-jun, someone reported that a hunter had just exited the tutorial tower. Sin-jun found it impressive since it had been exactly 8 weeks since the last entry. However, the report indicated that this hunter wasn't listed in the original entry records and had no official log of entering the tower. Now, he was causing a commotion outside. The assistant showed Sin-jun a video, and in an instant, it caught his attention. It was his senior brother, back after all these years. The girl couldn't believe the absurd scene before her. Seiwa had completed the tutorial tower in just 5 days. And if it weren't for his snack break, maybe it would have been 4. Seiwa commented that fighting definitely seemed to speed up recovery. It looked like about 25% of his strength had returned. They received an announcement. The tower had been cleared, and stats were being calculated while skill compatibility was analyzed. However, the system couldn't measure Seiwa's stats or abilities. It seemed like even the system had given up on trying to understand him. Then, the tower gate opened. Seiwa stepped out, happy to finally be back in Seoul. On the other side of the tutorial tower's gate, Seiwa and the girl were being inspected. A muscular man arrived at the scene and asked why there was so much commotion. The person beside him commented that there seemed to be an issue. Even though the gate had just opened, the muscular man recalled seeing the pretty girl on the list. He then asked the inspector what the problem was. The inspector responded that 2 people had exited the gate, but one of them wasn't registered in the entrance records. The muscular man, leader of Team 2, looked at Seiwoo. He found it hard to believe that Seiwoo had cleared the tower and come out unscathed, given his slim physique and rough appearance. I know, everyone expects a buff, imposing hero, but unfortunately, you got stuck with Seiwoo. With a confident, arrogant expression, Seiwoo pushed the inspector aside. Determined to handle the situation himself, puffing out his chest, he asked Seiwoo who he was and why he wasn't on the entrance list. Seiwoo calmly replied that it was because he hadn't entered through the entrance. The man retorted that, if Seiwoo had entered through the gate, he should have exited the same way. So how could he be coming out without having gone in? Ah, yes, the classic no-entry entrance paradox. Einstein would be proud. The man laughed and commented that Seiwoo didn't respect his superiors. Fry whispered to Seiwoo, noting that the man seemed to enjoy talking nonsense. I think he trains his tongue more than his fists. The man placed his finger on Seiwoo's forehead and called him an idiot, accusing him of using a camouflage ability. He threatened Seiwoo, demanding that he explain how he entered the tower or suffer the consequences. Suffer the consequences? Wow, looks like he accidentally set the difficulty to hard mode. The man threatened to rip Seiwoo's face off with his own hands. Seiwoo chuckled slightly and told the man to shut up because his breath smelled like garbage. Seriously, dude, it's like you brushed your teeth with garlic and rinsed with spoiled milk. Stunned, the man asked if Seiwoo had lost his mind. Seiwoo casually massaged his neck and told the man to fight since he had just threatened to rip his face off. He provoked him to hurry up and act because his breath was awful, advising him to breathe as little as possible. If you need a gas mask, I understand. Unable to contain his rage, the man tried to punch Seiwoo. Seiwoo told him to shut up, and in an instant, it was over. Sinjun and his assistant, who had just arrived, were shocked to see the man and his subordinates unconscious on the ground, their heads swollen. Damn, this looks like a scene straight out of Tom and Jerry. An inspector explained that the person he had reported earlier for causing disturbances had gotten into a fight with the security team and then disappeared. Sinjun asked if there was any security footage that clearly showed the person. They played the recording, which showed the individual taking down 5 hunters in mere seconds before vanishing. An inspector suggested that the person might be a stealth ability user, as they hadn't been detected. Sinjun disagreed, stating that it was simply a matter of speed, nothing more. The guy basically activated flash mode. He focused intently on the recording and recognized the person as his senior brother, who hadn't changed in 10 years. No wrinkles? What? Did he discover the secret to eternal youth? Because if he did, I want in. He immediately ordered a search alert and mobilized everyone in the Empire Guild to find him. He emphasized that no one should engage him. Instead, they should inform him that they were Sinjun's subordinates and bring him to the guild. As he left, Sinjun wondered where his brother had been all this time. He decided to deal with the girl who had left the tower with Seiwoo. He asked if she was the one who had exited the tutorial tower. Embarrassed, she admitted that she was, but clarified that she hadn't done anything. It was the other guy who did everything. However, they had left together. Sinjun noted that she had left faster than expected, so she must have gained some talent. She timidly mentioned that she didn't know if it was a good thing, but she had obtained a ranking skill. Upon hearing this, Sinjun decided to recruit her into the guild even before the final evaluation. He promised to adjust the contract terms to her liking and suggested that she sign with the Empire Guild. He basically offered her a personal contract. Did it come with a dental plan? She was extremely happy and asked if he was serious. At that moment, someone arrived and commented that, despite the name Empire, the guild acted more like a gang of criminals. Sinjun recognized the person by his voice and warned him to watch his words. It was the hunter Ryu Jivun, an S-rank hunter. Jivun sarcastically asked if Sinjun was offended, saying he had chosen his words carefully. The other S-rank hunter, Choi Sung, master of the White Lion Guild, commented that it looked like Sinjun had been outplayed. If this were an anime, this would be the moment his glasses glowed ominously. It seemed that everyone had gathered after being contacted by the association. Jivun observed the security team and speculated that the unregistered awakened individual mentioned by the association was the one responsible. Kneeling down, he commented that this person was quite bold for causing trouble as soon as they exited the tower. These people leave the tower and are already ready to fight. Like a true shonen protagonist. Choi Sung agreed and suggested that the person likely had a high-level ability, making them a first-rate talent. Jivan proposed that whoever found the individual first would have the right to claim them. No matter the method, what a great way to say finders, keepers. Choi Sung agreed, saying they should search individually but keep each other informed. Before leaving, Choi Sung handed a card to the girl and told her to take her time choosing, as anyone would accept her with her awakened abilities. Jivan left, promising to reach out if he found the person. Sinjun knew that Jivan wouldn't keep that promise. He already seemed like that one friend who says, "I'll check and let you know," and then never replies. Outside, Jivan ordered his assistant to gather all C-rank and D-rank hunters from Younggang, form a team, and tell them to find Min Sinjun's brother. Basically setting up a side quest for NPCs. Scene change. Saewo went to a nearby restaurant and ordered fried chicken. Fry commented that after returning to Earth after 100 years, the first place he went was one that only sold fried birds? Saewo told him to just try it. He'd understand why he ran there like a madman. After eating for a while, Fry exclaimed, "What the hell, this is insane. I wasted my whole life. Is this the golden legacy of fried birds? Is this how it was supposed to be?" The taste was incredible. He asked Saewo how he had survived in the demon realm for 100 years without eating something like this. Was he a psychopath? Saewo told Fry to shut up. "You're messing with my humanity." Fry responded, "Fine, then hurry up and give me more. Don't eat it all by yourself." But just to clarify, in this conversation between Fry and Saewo, Frey's voice could only be heard by Saewo and no one else. Meaning, to any outsider watching, Saewo was just sitting there, devouring fried chicken and arguing with himself. Full-on crazy guy in the city center vibes. After finishing his meal, Saewo thanked the waiter and left the restaurant. As they walked through the city, Fry asked where he was going now. Saewo responded, "Where else? Home, of course. Like any normal person would after a long day. Or in his case, centuries of chaos." After walking for a while, they arrived at his street. Finally, Saewo had arrived home. Fry asked if that was really his house. Saewo replied that it was, as he started to open the gate. Like, wow, the nostalgia. He immediately felt the emotion of returning to the place where he was born. Or at least, where he had grown up until the apocalypse knocked on the door. But the moment he stepped inside, his face paled. Suddenly, he heard a voice. A voice asking if he was back. Saewo, overwhelmed, thought, "Oh, how nice, my mother still remembers me." Then came his father's voice, saying he was late. And his mother asking if he was hungry. Ah, mothers, right? Always asking that. Even in the middle of an epic post-apocalyptic drama. They were ready to eat. So, he should call his younger brother, Sinjun. But all of that was just a memory. A recollection of when his parents were still alive. And he was younger. Probably eating that famous soybean stew. Soybean stew? He thought. Not everyone dreams about that. But he seemed to think it was a great idea. His mother told them to wash their hands before eating. And he thought, now that's proper manners. If only I had soap here. Back to reality. Saewo realized that his home was in ruins. Completely destroyed. And no one was there anymore. The cold, lifeless air surrounded him. And he didn't even have a t-shirt that said, "I survived the demon realm," to show off. Saewo just stood there. Stunned, unable to say a word. After a while, he slowly sat down, thinking it would be a good time for some tea. But no tea either. He muttered that he still couldn't remember his parents' faces. Oh yeah, that whole memory loss thing. Probably because I spent 100 years in a demon realm, huh? Though they say forgetting things is a gift from God, to him, it was a curse. 100 years in the demon realm. An endless bloodbath on a strange, violent planet. Maybe a little detox after that, huh? He thought. The numbing of human senses and the halt of time. The wear and tear on his body and mind for an unbearably long period. It felt like the course of forgetting would erase him completely. So, he held on. Desperately clinging to the only two memories he had before entering the demon realm. The memories of his younger brother and the memories of his disciples. These memories didn't just remain as recollections. Instead, they grew into obsessions and persistent attachments. But that was fine. With them, I survived for 100 years. They were more resilient than Wi-Fi at Grandma's house. And also, thanks to that guy Fry, who had accompanied him throughout the entire demon realm. Fry then commented that Saewo's house felt lonely. The place they lived in back in the demon realm seemed cozier in comparison. Saewo replied that yeah, but there was no fried chicken in the demon realm. Fry agreed logically, that was correct. There was nothing more to say on the matter. With a smile, Seiwo said that, either way, he only intended to visit once. Might as well leave now. Just a quick visit, like dropping by your aunt's house, but without the carrot cake. He didn't want to waste any more time there. He suggested they start looking for the kids. He wondered if everyone had been doing well over the past 10 years. I hope my brother, Sinjun, still has that troublemaker face, but with more muscles. He thought. But suddenly, as he walked, a voice echoed. We found him. And in the same instant, Seiwu was surrounded by a group of men gang members, armed to the teeth. Like one of those moments in a movie where you know things are about to go south, but you're not sure exactly how yet. Up on the rooftop, a red-haired guy, who seemed to be the leader, smirked. It was a pain finding this bastard, he said. Seiwu, resisting the urge to make a joke about his hair, simply looked at the guy. The guy looked back at Seiwu and said, Nice to meet you. You must be the one who caused that mess outside the tower, right? And as if this were totally normal, he introduced himself. My name is Bayon Hackman, a C-rank hunter from Vajra. Nice to meet you. Maybe a little peace and love before the shooting starts? He then asked Seiwu if he had any idea how long they had been looking for him. Seiwu just thought, and what exactly am I supposed to do with that information? Comfort them? Clearly, he wasn't much for sentimental responses. Hackman got irritated and asked if Seiwu hadn't heard that they were from the Vajra Guild. Seiwu responded, Vajra, or whatever, I don't care. He then asked what they wanted from him. Unless Vajra was the name of some exotic candy, he wasn't going to waste his time. Hackman said it seemed like Seiwu didn't understand his situation, so they'd make him crawl on all fours. With a smile, Seiwu responded, it'll be the other way around. Seriously? That's the plan? If you want, I'll even help, but only if there's a prize at the end. The hunter world was really a mess these days. Now even gorillas were becoming hunters. What a wonderful world this had become. Hackman was furious when he heard that. You're gonna regret this. They needed to teach him a lesson before taking him away. His body began to glow with electricity. In the blink of an eye, he charged at Seiwu. Oh, hold on, did this guy just turn into Superman? With a loud bang, his punch sent Seiwu flying. His body crashed through a wall on the other side of the street. But even while soaring through the air, his hands stayed in his pockets. Because, of course, who needs hands when you've got style? He looked completely calm, as if nothing had happened. With a dry laugh, Hackman cursed at him, demanding to know who he was calling a gorilla. The rest of the gang members laughed, saying that the insignificant little guy had pissed off the boss. This guy is like a fly that just won't leave your face, huh? They said Seiwu had passed out before even pulling his hands out of his pockets. Truly, Seiwu was the king of I'll make an impact without moving a muscle. They told Hackman to hit him again, just to make sure. Who knows, maybe he'd die this time. But Seiwu remained lying there, completely unbothered. He was looking at a system notification. Let's see if the system has any tips for me here. Oh? A new skill? Was he about to level up? Seiwu used the system to check Hackman's power and stats. The system revealed that Hackman was rank C, and his ability was instant acceleration, which doubled his speed. If the user's physical strength and body structure could handle it, they could move even faster. Saya then turned to Fry. Hey, wanna eat this ability? Fry replied that it was his first time eating an ability since arriving on Earth, so he wanted to try it. First times are always special, right? And I'm not even talking about abilities. Sai shrugged. Alright, then. In an instant, he stood up. Hackman and the rest of the gang were stunned. Wait, they thought he had passed out, but he just stood up? What the hell is going on here? But before anyone could react, Saya moved at the speed of light and knocked Hackman out with a single strike, slamming his face into the ground. It was like a warm embrace, but for his face. As he hit the ground, Hackman's mind reeled. What the hell just happened? This guy was faster than light, and he couldn't even feel his energy. The rest of the gang was in shock. Wait, he just took down the boss with one hit? Are you serious? Then Saya reached out his hand and activated his ability. He commanded the predator to absorb Hackman's power. Immediately, talismans began to surround Hackman. After a moment, the extraction was complete. Now, Saya had acquired the rank C instant lightning ability, along with all of Hackman's attributes. With a dry laugh, Saya muttered, so this predator skill works on Earth too. Guess it's time to have some fun. Fry commented that it was nice, but it tasted worse than chicken. The rest of the gang was furious. One of them gritted his teeth and shouted for everyone to attack Sayu at once. They all charged forward, yelling a battle cry. But Sayu remained completely unfazed. He turned to Fry and said, "Let's test out our brand new ability on these guys. Nothing like a fresh new skill to level up a fight, right?" Fry grinned. "Got it." In the blink of an eye, Sayu's body lit up with lightning, just like Hackman's had before. No, he wasn't Superman. He was Thor's long-lost cousin. But since Sayu was stronger and his body was more durable, he could move even faster than the original owner of the ability. In an instant, he vanished. And before the gang members could even react, boom! Sayu took them down one by one. It was like ordering a pizza and having it show up 10 minutes early. They had no idea what hit them, only realizing when their bodies hit the ground, unconscious. One of them thought, "Damn it, I should have just stayed home and watched Netflix." One gang member, perhaps slightly smarter than the rest, tightened his grip on his dagger, reinforcing his body and preparing to strike. But Sayu effortlessly dodged it, as if the attack was moving in slow motion. "Buddy, your attack was so slow that even dial-up internet is faster." Then, he kicked the guy in the stomach, making him cough up blood. And just like that, Sayu stole another ability, Vital Strike. Time to give everyone a free checkup on their weak points. When activated, the ability automatically targeted an opponent's vital spots, making attacks more efficient, especially when using a weapon. Sayu sighed. "This blade is dull as hell. Anyone got a pair of scissors? Because this thing is blinder than me on a Sunday morning. Who the hell fights with a dull blade?" Still, he decided to borrow it for now. Borrowing isn't stealing, okay? Combining Vital Strike with Instant Lightning, he moved at light speed, targeting the remaining gang members. But just as he was about to drive the blade into one of their necks, a voice called his name. Sayu paused. The voice was so familiar that he turned to see who it was. And when he did, he was shocked. It was his younger brother, Sin-jun. Now grown up after 10 years. With a smile, Sin-jun called out to his older brother. 20 years ago, the portals opened in a peaceful world, plunging everything into chaos. Ah, yes. The day everything went wrong. Basically, the day the Wi-Fi went out and never came back the same. Everyone panicked, confused, and clueless. No one had any idea what was happening, because it was the first time they had ever seen anything like it. Then, suddenly, monsters began pouring out of the portals. And with them came the first awakened humans, people whose powers activated the moment the portals appeared. At the time, there were no policies or laws to deal with the situation. It was a survival of the fittest era. Basically, a giant reality show, but without any rules. In this chaotic world, two brothers, Sayu and Sin-jun, who had lost their parents at a young age, had to survive by any means necessary. Sayu, the older brother, was one of the first awakened humans. He dropped out of school to become a hunter and support Sin-jun, who was still a helpless baby. Back then, Sin-jun had asked his older brother, "Aren't you going to school today?" Sayu had simply answered, "There's no class today. I'm going to work." Survival class? That's already worth more than any math test. With a sigh, Sin-jun asked if it was because of him, if that was why Sayu had been skipping school. But Sayu flicked him on the forehead and said no, it was just because he was terrible at studying, so he decided on his career early. "I just chose to be a hunter instead of a nerd. It was more practical." Holding his stomach, Sin-jun asked, "So when are you coming back? Will it take long? Are you going on a 10-year trip and just showing up now?" 10-year delay, just like my package from China. With a smile, Sayu reassured him not to worry, that he'd be back soon. But since that day, no one ever heard from Sayu again. It has now been 10 years since he left, and he never returned. Now, after finishing a battle, Sayu made his way to his younger brother's house and was surprised to see a massive, well-built building. He looked out the window and was even more surprised to see the Han River so close. Sin-jun must have hired Tony Stark's architectural team. He thought. So Sin-jun bought this place all by himself? No loans? He felt happy seeing his younger brother's success. Sin-jun, however, shrugged it off, saying it wasn't anything special. "All the money came from the skills I learned from you, Sayu." Ah, so it's the inheritance of Big Brother's ninja skills. It was a house meant for both of them to live in. That's why there was a room for him too. But looking at his older brother, Sin-jun thought, "I don't believe this. Is this really my older brother? Someone we couldn't find for years suddenly shows up after 10? It's like leveling up from missing for 10 years to I'm back, but no big deal. After glancing around the place, Sayo asked Sinjun if there really was a room for him. Wow, now I can take care of my little brother. I'm like that uncle who randomly shows up on your birthday. He praised Sinjun for working hard over the past 10 years. But with a smile, Sinjun rejected the praise. No. The one who worked the hardest was my older brother. With a sigh, Sinjun asked if Sayo even realized how much they had searched for him. Where have you been all this time? And why are you only showing up now? With a smile, Sayo patted his head and told him to sit down. He had 100 years worth of stories to tell. Sit down, 'cause here comes a story. Sometime later, they sat with some drinks and snacks, a laptop in front of them. Family meeting, snacks included. This is how we solve things. Saya then told everything, how he entered the demon world and how he made his way back to Earth. Sinjun, you won't believe the wild adventure your older brother went on. After hearing the story, Sinjun summed it up. So, 10 years ago, when you defeated the fourth demon lord, you got transported to another dimension by an artifact he had. In that world, you met the Predator, a being that could extract people's abilities. Over 100 years, you grew stronger with that skill and searched for dragons with dimensional magic. Seems like you spent more time in another dimension than I did waiting for the bus. You eventually reached the Dragon King, defeated him, and took an orb from his heart. Then you used that orb to return to Earth. Is that everything? Basically, an epic journey of dragons, artifacts, and time jumps? Sayo confirmed it and added that the Predator, whom he called Fry, also crossed into Earth with him and was now inside his body. Sinjun was shocked. Inside your body? Is this some kind of possession or something? Is Fry like a freeloading spirit that doesn't pay rent? Sayo explained that instead of possession, it was more like a parasite. You know that friend who always shows up but never pitches in for expenses? Yeah, kinda like that. Hearing this, Fry got irritated and asked Sayo if he wanted to have bloody diarrhea. Saya then told his younger brother not to take it too seriously. He knew it sounded absurd, but at the very least, Sinjun should know. Your older brother isn't crazy. Or at least, not more than usual. Sinjun replied, of course, I believe you. After all, you're my brother. And honestly, we don't even live in a world where this kind of thing sounds absurd anymore. I just didn't immediately connect it to anything. I mean, who hasn't heard a story like this? Like, oh yeah, my friend got abducted by aliens and came back with superpowers. Totally normal. Either way, he told Saya that, for now, what mattered was that he was back. Back from a 10-year trip? No boarding pass, no luggage, just, hey, I'm your long-lost brother. Saya grinned. Right. Now it's my turn to ask. What happened to you during the last 10 years? Who allowed a guy like Choi Dae-sung to become president? Sinjun explained that ever since Saya disappeared, Choi Dae-sung shamelessly took credit for defeating the fourth demon king. With that lie, he earned the title of the greatest hunter of the first generation, and using that fabricated status, he climbed his way to the presidency. Now, he keeps creating politicians who harm their guild. Classic, right? Gets famous by lying and still lands a job. Sinjun said he couldn't wait to see Choi Dae-sung's face when he found out his older brother was back. I can already imagine it. He's gonna try to come up with an excuse, but it'll be as convincing as a kid saying they didn't break the vase. Sayo added, these guys' intentions are obvious. He's the only SS rank in South Korea. That's ridiculous. He must have done something to stay the only SS rank all this time. Either he signed a pact with the devil, or he's just really good at cheating. Saya then asked, by the way, those guys who attacked me earlier, those John gang, could they be Choi Dae-sung's goons? No, Choi Dae-sung's guild is called Infinity. There are several major guilds in South Korea, collectively known as Reptagram. Sinjun's guild, Empire, is one of them. The others are Infinity, Vajra, White Lion, Warrior Fighter, Blue Flower, and Frozen Soul. Now we just need to decide which one to join in the future. Reptagram, the guild universe. I'm waiting for the spin-off. Sinjun explained that among them, Vajra is the second largest guild, led by a second-generation hunter named Ruidi. With a wicked smile, Sinjun said he'd take care of today's problem. Sayo, you don't need to worry. Noticing the sinister grin on Sinjun's face, our protagonist thought that his younger brother had become a bit rougher and more ruthless over the 10 years they were apart. My cute little brother turned into a tough guy? What's going on, Sejun? Saya then asked, by the way, what about my disciples? Huh? You mean your apprentice heroes? Are they in the superhero league now? Sinjun was a bit shocked and said they had all gone their separate ways long ago and no longer kept in touch. Zialong went back home, and Kong and Iyawan are now under Shoidisu. Sayu blinked. Well, that's an unexpected twist. They joined Shoidisu? But what about Minjun? Sinjun answered, Minjun is dead. Great, another plot twist. I'm starting to think this world is just full of them. Hearing this, the protagonist was stunned. What? He died? Who killed him? Did they find the culprit? Minjun, my man, who did this to you? Now I have more questions than answers. Sinjun explained that Minjun's body disappeared, so they never found out who was responsible. The only ones capable of killing a hunter were other hunters or unregistered awakened individuals. Or maybe his body was abducted by aliens. You never know, right? At the time, even HMCS was involved in the investigation, but no progress was made. Sayu was confused. What's HMCS? What does it stand for? Sinjun explained that HMCS was the Hunter Crime Special Unit, an international agency that operated on the front lines of hunter-related crimes. They had the authority to investigate and arrest all awakened criminals. So, basically, they're hunter police, or like the ninja version of the police. Just with more special abilities and less paperwork. Saya then asked Sinjun, do you happen to have any connections there? Because if you do, go ahead and say hi to the crew for me. Sinjun said yes, but then asked, are you really planning to join them? If you need an investigation, you should use our guild's intelligence team instead. Our guild has a ninja investigation team? If so, I'm signing up. Sinjun advised Sayu not to get involved with a place that dangerous. That's like the shady side of the club where fights always break out. Don't go there, man. But Sayu replied, it's fine. I don't just need information, I need something else. Oh, we know. A good old dose of revenge, right? With a sigh, Sinjun told his older brother, hunters deal with crimes like murder. Going there now is too soon. You just got back to Earth. You should rest and regain your combat sense. Relax, take a deep breath, and grab a coffee. Too soon to save the world again, bro. But Sayu reassured his younger brother. I spent 100 years in the demon world. What haven't I done? What battle haven't I fought? After all, who else has the resume of a world champion in demon battles? Hearing this, Sejun said, oh, right, I almost forgot. Before leaving Earth, my older brother gave himself a nickname. He was called the God of Battle and the first awakened hunter of the first generation. Damn, even I'm impressed by that title. God of Battle? Sounds like a superhero name. Even after 20 years, he should still have his combat sense intact. That guy never loses his touch, no matter how much time passes, just like that friend who plays soccer on the weekends and thinks he's Neymar. Sinjun then said, he told Sayu about a man named Iji, who was a manager at HMCS. He would try to contact him. Iji? Does he have a superhero photo too? Let's find out. Meanwhile, Saya looked at the laptop, analyzing the information Sinjun had just shared. She muttered, oh no, here comes Deja Vu. Is it that guy from the cafe, or just another villain with a mysterious face? After looking at the photo, Sinjun was surprised to see who it was. Looks like someone isn't ready for a reunion, huh? He said that the man was Wang, the leader of HMCS's Gangbuk district team. A fifth-generation hunter and one of the first-generation hunters in the world. So, basically, a hunter from the prehistoric era. If he were a Pokemon, he would have evolved about 10 times by now. He asked, and Sayo answered, his real name is Jiangu. 2 days later, at the HMCS headquarters, inside the Gangbuk team office, the team leader was shouting. Oh boy, looks like someone had too much coffee today. He said that these second-generation guys didn't know anything. He was furious, and his assistant asked what was wrong. Jiangu replied that he had just received an order from above. They had assigned a new rookie to his team. Ah, of course, the rookie is always the target of the veteran's rage, right? Might as well rename him to Walking Problem. Jiangu sneered, saying he didn't like them. These greenhouse-raised guys, their old brains must be rotting. Greenhouse-raised? What is this, a horde of lab-grown superheroes? Hearing this, the assistant smiled and thought to himself, who's the real old man here? But Jiangu didn't stop. Still irritated, he continued. Back in the old days, during the lawless zone, when everyone first awakened, the early days of hunters were all about brute force. They even wrote wills before heading out on missions because they could die at any moment. Wow, These guys were like war movie characters, just missing a sad piano song in the background. He added, "By the way, have I ever told you about the time I died in an attack 10 years ago?" The assistant sighed, yes, I've heard this story 1,000 times. The assistant deserves an award for patience, he probably knows the story by heart. But Jianggu wasn't done. He ignored the assistant's reaction and started reminiscing again. "Oh no, here we go again. Listen to this, when I was a rookie, I took a fatal blow, and my group was on the brink of death, about to lose a lot of time. This guy has more drama than a telenovela. But at that moment, a healer with incredible abilities appeared, saving me and my entire team." As he said this, he mentioned the name Jianggu. At that instant, the office door swung open forcefully, and a voice echoed, repeating the exact same name, Jianggu. The team leader was shocked, turning toward the door to see who else could say that iconic name. Time for the big reveal, who is the mysterious character? It was Sayu. He asked Jianggu why he had changed his name. That just confuses people. He asked if Jianggu remembered him. He was the savior from that time. Upon recognizing him, Jianggu started sweating. His expression shifted to pure shock. What? Hunter Min Sayo? What is he doing here after 10 years? Jianggu looked more shocked than when the restaurant bill arrives and the credit card statement comes in too. Jianggu introduced Sayu as a new hunter who had joined the Gangbuk team. New recruit? This guy has more history than most veterans, my friend. Since he was a new member, Jianggu emphasized that there was a lot of information Saya didn't know yet, so he instructed the team to provide it to him whenever necessary. He also reminded everyone that, as veterans, they should treat the new recruit with the utmost respect. Yeah, sure, but veteran respect is like grandparent respect, listen to what I say, but do things your way. A girl named Song muttered to another guy, saying that Jianggu's behavior was contradictory. It's strange for the great team leader to act like this. Looks like Jianggu is trying to impress someone with this little act, huh? But all anyone really cares about is where the coffee is. The guy told her to keep quiet, suggesting that, judging by the team leader's reaction, Saya was definitely no ordinary recruit. Jianggu then instructed Song to follow him to the conference room for a quick briefing for the new recruit. Another member questioned whether Saya might actually be a 3-star hunter who had entered as a rookie. In the conference room, Jianggu politely asked Saya if he wanted coffee, and if so, whether he preferred mixed or Americano. Mixed? Dude, he even made choosing coffee feel like a top-secret mission. Saya replied, mixed. A mixed coffee? This guy has the style of a master, I bet he doesn't even hesitate when making tough decisions. The guy humbly showed Saya the HMCS deployment uniform and asked for his size. Song, confused, said she hadn't received any instructions despite the briefing and didn't know what kind of information she was supposed to provide to the new recruit. As the data manager for HMCS's Gangbuk team, she had no idea what was expected of her. Look at the panic. They sent me here, but they didn't even tell me what to do. Saya said he needed the records of all hunters who had died in the last 20 years. He asked her to summarize the data and send it to him. 20 years? What's next? A list of all the hunters' typos? Surprised, she mentioned that 20 years of data was a lot and that they would have to submit a report to the Hunters Association. Oh, yeah, sure, no pressure, just 20 years of data and maybe a few more decades of memories. Jianggu interrupted, yelling that she had enough experience to figure it out on her own. He then approached Saya with a coffee and assured him that the data manager would handle it quickly and efficiently. It's always nice to see that Jianggu is the type of boss who makes everything sound easier. All that's left is for him to say, I knew you could do it. John adjusted his glasses and asked Sayu if he was referring to human deaths. Excuse me? Human deaths? Sounds like a horror movie title. What's next? Coffee with death? Sayu clarified that he was referring to cases officially recognized as murder by HMCS. He also requested a list of fugitive hunters who were still on the run. Murder and fugitive hunters. This sounds more like a video game mission than a corporate meeting. He gripped his coffee cup angrily because killing an awakened individual was nearly impossible unless the attacker was also an awakened one of equal strength. If someone managed to kill a high-level hunter like Minjun, the culprit was probably a professional. Even if the culprit had already been caught or killed, if they were awakened, there would be a record of them in the organization. So, we can say that whoever did this was more trained than a first-generation ninja? For now, tracking them was the priority. She asked where to send the information, and Sayu instructed her to send it to his phone for now. Ah, of course, everything on the phone. Who needs a laptop when you have a smartphone, right? Someone entered and informed Younggu that they had received a request for police support. A turf war had broken out between gangs, including awakened members. A gang war? This thing is turning into a cop drama. But the fight isn't over, it just changed stages. Younggu was inclined to let the police handle it, thinking it only involved low-level thugs. Oh sure, let the police handle it, except now they have to deal with awakened ones, so it's like switching from easy mode to impossible mode. But then the guy mentioned that one of the gangs was Cerberus. Wait a second, Cerberus? That sounds like a rock band name. Younggu found this problematic, leading Saya to ask what Cerberus was. Sun explained that Cerberus was on a completely different level from normal gangs. They were involved in arms trafficking, contract killings, and even the alleged trafficking of hunters. Upon hearing about hunter trafficking, Sayu became interested and suggested they go together. At a shop, a battle had just taken place. Many bodies were scattered across the floor. Yikes, they didn't even get to use their instant noodle discount coupons before getting wiped out. Or maybe they did, but they're going straight down. Kanghu, the second in command of the Cerberus Guild, started commenting that the captain of the Bloodless Reaper field unit was nothing special. At least not in front of him. Wow, that confidence, like he's saying, guys, I already won the best boss trophy, but if you want, I can leave a little space for you. The red-haired guy, Jakin, Cerberus' third in command, argued back, saying it was unfair for Kanghu to talk like that since half the enemies had been taken down by his cleaver. Kanghu laughed and told Jakin that if he felt left out, he should try beating him. Jakin replied that Kanghu should just wait, one day, he would defeat him. How about a contest to see who has the most free time? Because waiting is a rare skill around here. Kanghu laughed and commented that they were useless without him. He was happy to have left being a hunter behind and joined the organization. Another guy asked Kanghu if they should start marking territory. Kanghu agreed, declaring that the place now belonged to Cerberus. Suddenly, an explosion occurred. Jakin panicked and asked who was responsible. Was there still a Bloodless Reaper lurking around? I knew this place would turn into a fireworks show sooner or later. The one responsible for the explosion was Sayu. Jakin shouted at Kanghu, asking if he realized that messing with HMCS would complicate things. While they were arguing, Sayu appeared and commented that, judging by the way Kanghu spoke, he must have killed some hunters in his life. Saya said he should show more of his abilities. The members of Cerberus had no idea who Saya was, wondering who he thought he was to show up alone. Oh, look at that, the guy arrives at the party uninvited and still makes you question whether you should have sent him an invitation. Jakin, worried, asked Kanghu what they should do since Saya didn't seem to have the demeanor of a public official. Yeah, Jakin, he seems more like a secret agent than a government employee. Kanghu told them that the only option was to show their strength, so he activated his ability, Full Body Armor, a rank B skill that formed an invisible armor over his entire body. Its duration depended on the caster's mana, increasing physical defense by 30% and magical defense by 10%. Ah, the classic and invisible armor. Now he just needs to say, I'm invincible, except in moments of weakness. They charged at Sayu, but before Kanghu understood what was happening, he had a vision of someone on the other side of a river, his grandfather waving at him. Kanghu was crying on the ground, and when he opened his eyes, he saw that all his comrades had been killed, leaving him as the only survivor. Nobody likes spoilers, but this must be the moment where everything went wrong in the script of his life. Sayu told Fry to devour Kanghu's rank B ability. Fry was excited since it was a decent skill. Kanghu couldn't believe they had all lost to just one man. He asked Saya why he had taken things so far. Ah, Kanghu, sometimes life isn't just about surviving. Sometimes, it's about making a grand finale better than any action movie out there. Desperate, Kanghu insisted that they had never killed a hunter, they had only survived with their bodies. Saito admitted that he knew they had never killed hunters. Either way, he had never thought weaklings like them were capable of it. Kanghu then asked why Saya had attacked them. Saya replied that he wanted to check how strong the awakened criminals had become since they seemed like a lost cause. Basically, the guy just wanted to test the difficulty level of the game. It was better to eliminate them early. Jungu and the others rushed to the scene. Jungu asked if Saya was okay since they had just finished clearing the upper floor of the club. So, Sayu, all good? Or did you leave the mess for us, as always? Sayu, ignoring the concern, commented that they took their time. He then placed his foot on Kanghu's head and told Jungu that he spared a high-ranking boss and killed the rest. He asked if that was acceptable. Jungu replied that, technically, capturing them should have been the priority, but if Saya had been attacked first, it was allowed. Since HMCS operated as an international organization, they followed standard regulations. Thus, agents were required to wear body cameras to verify the legitimacy of their actions. Jungu couldn't believe Saya had exterminated the Cerberus Guild. Despite his cruelty, although Saya was known as the Mad Dog, Jungu had never realized how brutal he was. Saya sheepishly admitted that he forgot to use his body camera and, in a low voice, asked Jungu to cover for him. Jungu, having no choice, reluctantly agreed. Of course, no camera. Who hasn't been there? But hey, you're not paying me enough to be an accomplice in this soap opera. Sayo added that he had been hit first, pointing to the blood on his clothes. Jungu assured him that he believed him, though it was obvious he didn't. It was clear the blood wasn't Sayo's. Meanwhile, someone made a call to Girth, a hunter from Hankia of the Hong Kong Red Guild. An informant told Girth that the Cerberus Guild had been completely wiped out, without even being able to fight back. The second-in-command, Konghu, had been captured, while the third-in-command, Jae Kim, the one they had been instructed to monitor, was dead. Girth finally arrived in South Korea, and at the airport, a group of men approached him. One of the men informed someone over the phone that Girth, the hunter affiliated with the Hong Kong Red Guild, had just entered the country and that they were now heading to the designated location. One of the men approached Girth, bowed to him, and said, "May the deceased rest in peace." He introduced himself as Lee Jong-yong from the Korean Hunters Association. Without acknowledging the greeting, Girth asked where his brother was. "So, Lee Jong, what's up? Where's my brother, man?" Jong-yong replied that the body of the suspect Jae Kim was currently at the Hunters Forensic Medicine Department. He said that Girth would have to accompany them to verify the body, complete the necessary procedures, and then be escorted to his designated accommodation. Necessary procedures? Well, does their accommodation include Wi-Fi and a jacuzzi? Or is it just a dark room? With an ironic smile, Girth said, "A suspect? So, you're trying to tell me that my younger brother is now a suspect?" He then asked the men in suits if it was true that the person responsible for his brother's death was affiliated with HMCS. If that's true, HMCS is going to have a lot of explaining to do. The men responded that they couldn't answer any questions related to that. With a serious face, Girth then asked if he was allowed to leave the premises outside the scheduled hours. Wait, is he going to ask for permission like a student at school? The officers replied that this was not allowed. He was to remain in his designated accommodation until his pre-scheduled departure date. Of course, Girth, just wait there like it's a 5-star hotel. Except there's no Wi-Fi, no breakfast, nothing. If he left without authorization, under the International Hunters Law, he would face forced deportation, along with disciplinary actions and appropriate penalties. Forced deportation? Girth's about to feel like he just got banned from an online game. Since he had already been informed of all the rules and regulations, they told him they would now escort him to the Forensic Medicine Department. Girth's face was red with rage, but he tried not to show it. He's fuming, and who wouldn't be? It must feel like he made a mistake in the game, except the penalty is way worse. He muttered to himself, "So, they're just letting me wander around inside the apartment without being able to leave? Is that what they're saying?" The guy must be feeling like a prisoner of war in his own apartment. Like, "I'm here, but where's my freedom, people?" But the officers were already heading out, expecting him to follow. As they were leaving, Girth called out to the man beside him. "Rio." Rio responded, "Yes, sir." Girth told Rio, "Find them. Who killed my little brother?" Then, they began following the officers. As they walked, Girth said, "Whoever killed my brother. I'll find them. I'll rip out their hearts while they're still alive and make sure they feel pain." Oh, Girth is pissed. The guy is about to make everyone suffer. Meanwhile, in another scene, Sayu was talking to his younger brother. Sejun told Sayu that 2 days after Minjun's murder, the house had been completely ransacked. But Sayu still wasn't convinced. He explained, "A hunter's mana is like a fingerprint. It can reveal their code, attributes, and rankings, right?" The guy just compared mana to fingerprints. Now I'm wondering, can fingerprints be used to rip someone's head off? At the time, the hunters and investigators assumed the culprit had taken everything to erase any trace of their presence. The house had been completely looted 2 days after the murder. Not a single item containing Minjun's mana remained. But Saya questioned, "Are you sure it was the real culprit who did this? What if it was just a random robbery? It's not like the real culprit had to be the one who trashed the place." Pointing at the list, he continued, if you look at the list of stolen items, most of them were valuable. And with that level of mess, there's an even higher chance of leaving behind evidence. Sayo added, if erasing traces of mana was really the goal, burning the house down would have been a much easier option. Whoa there, buddy. The burn it all approach isn't always the best solution. Sejuan asked Sayo if he was saying someone took advantage of the empty house after Minjun was killed. Sayo replied, yes. He had reviewed HMC's crime records, and there were more cases like this than he expected. As he left, he said, looks like we need to mend some fences. Sejuan was confused. What was he planning? Even though it had taken a while to resell Minjun's house, many years had passed. There was no way Minjun's belongings were still around. But with a smile, Sayo replied, we won't know unless we check. Then he simply said, see you tonight. A few weeks passed. But Sayo, despite his confidence, still hadn't found any clues. He was so sure of himself, thinking this would be an easy job. I'm so good at this, I could open my own detective agency. With a discount on coffee, of course. Sayo exploded in frustration, why the hell are there so many damn thieves in this tiny country? It had been a week, and he hadn't found a single piece of evidence or the real thief. Fry said, I have a good instinct. Trust your big brother. I'll point you in the right direction. Then he told Saya to go right. Oh, what's this? That instinct is sharper than Google Maps GPS. He didn't even complain. He just listened. Assuming that, for now, Fry was his older brother. And he went to the right. But after following the indicated path, he screamed and exploded, releasing all the anger that had been boiling inside him. It's a dead end, you idiot. Oh, right. This GPS really tricked me. Again. Next time, I'll use Waze. But Fry smiled. Because his instincts weren't wrong. Suddenly, Saya heard some people talking in the distance. And a voice said, did you hear the rumors? Sayo quickly hid to eavesdrop on the conversation. The ones talking were a man with a rat's head, conversing with his boss, a man whose face looked like a hamburger. This scene is like a deep web version of Ratatouille. The rat-headed man said, the HMCS has been cracking down hard on the receivers. Just yesterday, the entire Yangdianpo area was wiped out. The boss replied, seriously? Without even sending a report? Why would the HMCS do that? The rat-headed man explained to his boss, it's the HMCS. They have investigative authority over all operations worldwide. And they have the right to execute punishments on any awakened criminals on site if they resist. If those guys catch him, he's not just going to jail. In other words, he either becomes a prisoner or becomes barbecue. Tough choice. He could end up dead. The boss exploded, saying, but they're just government dogs. If we kill them, that's it. The rat-headed man responded, true. Any skilled hunter prefers joining a guild, the pay is better. That's why there are no high rankers in organizations like the HMCS. But the one attacking the receivers this time isn't just some random lunatic. This is a fight between bosses now. And the guy is practically getting his degree in insanity. Then the man said, since we specialize in stolen goods from hunters, maybe we should relocate our warehouse this time so the HMC doesn't catch us. But just as they were about to leave, Saya stepped out from the shadows. Where exactly is this warehouse? Ah, classic Saya, the master of dramatic entrances. He has more grand entrances than Batman himself. Upon seeing him, the boss and the rat-headed man were startled. Who's there? The boss looked around nervously. Saya smirked. Alright, time to confiscate your warehouse. Confiscate? Nah, my friend. I'd call it more of an unexpected visit without the invitation. Seeing him, the rat-headed man told his boss, that's him. The bastard from HMCS who's been taking down the receivers. The boss quickly grabbed his phone and started calling his men. Move your asses to Sector 2, now. This is an emergency. Guys, this is a real emergency. But don't worry, we can still turn this mission into a movie. Or at least an animated series. But while the boss was making the call, Saya remained unfazed. He kept pressing them. Where is the warehouse? He said he was busy. Then they should start talking unless they wanted to die. Sir, I just wanted a map. No need for coffee, but that map would really help right now. A few minutes later, a group of men approached. One of them asked, Boss, what's going on? Who the hell is this guy? Oh, this guy? Just the biggest troublemaker in the galaxy. Check his resume. Is he an imposter? Is he really the one taking down the receivers? The boss laughed. He's an idiot who doesn't even know where he walked into. Even though he's from HMCS. If we bury him in concrete and dump him in the ocean, no one will ever find him. Saya tilted his head. What are these guys even saying? He was starting to think this situation was turning into something quite interesting. Uno reverse. He smiled internally. Like someone pulling an ace out of their sleeve. In reality, these guys were practically handing him his job on a silver platter. They had grouped up on their own. It was almost like they were lining up for his ability. He even thought, thanks, guys. You really didn't have to. Then, he turned to Fry with a mischievous grin. Let's use an ability for the first time in a while. Fry, always the comedian, replied, an ability? That'll cost a fried chicken meal as payment. Sayu, with the most serious face in the world, responded, deal. But make it a countryside-style fried chicken for a discount. The ability began to be cast. Lightning danced around his feet. A blinding light flooded the boss's eyes. Damn it, I can't see anything. With a thunderous crash that would make a storm jealous, Sayu unleashed the ability known as Shockwave. As the name implied, it affected everyone within range. And electrocuted them like they were cell phones caught in a thunderstorm. The difference was that they weren't charging, they were being charged with electricity. Sayu, unfazed, walked up to the rat-headed man. So, ready to show me the warehouse now? The man trembled and stuttered. What the hell are you? Sayu smirked. Me? I'm a lunatic. Why? Well, humor is also part of the mission. Sometime later, they arrived at the warehouse, and Sayu searched every corner. Finally, among all the junk, he found what he was looking for. A manabuki, the crown jewel. Or rather, Minjun's research book. Fry raised an eyebrow, looking at the book. This is the manabuki you were desperate to find? Smells like nerd. Saya nodded, keeping his composure. Yeah, it has a certain scent of Wi-Fi and coffee. I can recognize it from a mile away. But soon, he noticed a security spell on the book. It wasn't just any spell, it was an advanced formation that would only open with the owner's mana. Like when you try to open a jar of noodles, but the lid won't budge, and you need a superhero to do it for you. Fry asked, so the book won't open, right? Meaning you won't be able to read it? Sayu, with that I have a plan B look, replied. Doesn't matter. What I need isn't the book itself. What I want is the mana inside it. The essence. Like a strong cup of coffee. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. Yeah, it's me. There's a dozen awakened criminals here. Can we send in the cleanup crew? Oh, and bring the car too, we've got a place to go. Kind of like an Uber, but for criminals. In another scene, sometime later, Sayu arrived at the neutral battle zone. A place where underground techniques and bizarre abilities were traded. A market where you could find anything, potions, weapons, even an army of mechanics. A place called Black Skyfall. Inside one of the buildings, a woman played with a deck of cards. But it wasn't for fun, she was calculating like a shaman. Oh my. Looks like we have an interesting guest arriving. Sayu, observing the place, commented. Not much has changed here in the past 10 years. The only difference is that now there's free Wi-Fi. This guy is seriously addicted to Wi-Fi and coffee. Fry, always the jokester, added. You're famous, buddy. Everyone's looking at you. Must be your skills and stage presence. Saya looked at him and, with a grin, replied. Maybe. Or maybe it's just the style. Only those who wear a lightning shield on their chest can be truly irresistible. Fry then suggested. What if you extracted someone's abilities and ate one of them? I heard some people are into weird skill buffs. But Saya refused. No, that's like pissing off the waiter while he's bringing your order. And nobody wants to fight in a neutral zone. Especially when you already have a full combo of abilities. Suddenly, a woman blocked Sayu's path and said. It's been a while. She had been waiting for him. Saya looked at her, and before she could continue, he thought. Is she serious? Or has fate finally gotten tired of trolling me? Sometime later, the shaman and Saya started discussing business. She observed that even after 10 years, he hadn't changed at all. Saya gave an enigmatic smile and replied. Yeah, I guess so. Looks like time is afraid of messing with me. She, too, was the same, still unnamed, and she asked. So, what have you been doing for the past 10 years that you never reached out? Saya looked at her with the kind of smile that said he had the perfect answer. But he decided to play around instead. Oh, hero stuff. Saved the world, took down some villains. And between jobs, I kept trying to figure out where I left my car keys. Have you seen my house key? It's harder to find than good Wi-Fi at an airport. Extending the book, Saya said that instead of continuing the conversation, he'd rather have her extract the mana from it. He was already in straight-to-the-point mode, and the shaman, smiling, replied. Always straight to business, huh? The good old Sayu. That's something I still like about you. She brought out a cup and a knife, placing them beside the book, and asked. You remember how this works, right? Sai shrugged. Of course. This is basically a hardcore version of making brigadeiro, Brazilian chocolate fudge balls. Only instead of chocolate, we have mana. Instead of a pan, we have a knife. And instead of condensed milk, well, we have my hand. Basic stuff, really. He picked up the knife and cut his own hand, letting blood drip into the cup. As it poured, he thought. This blood ritual will never stop being weird. It's like trying to sell a cookbook, but all the recipes turn out to be horror stories. This near-impossible feat, however, was possible thanks to Unnamed. The Monohacker. She defied the laws of nature with her illegal ability. A power that made the laws of physics stop and ask. What the hell is this? She took a sip of the mixed blood and commented. Tastes like life itself is dancing on my tongue. All set, it's done. Saya thought. She's more of a gourmet vampire than a shaman. But hey, to each their own. Fresh and delicious blood, prepared more cleanly than ever. She smiled as if she had just tasted a gourmet dish. Fry, watching from a distance, thought. That woman's ability is definitely not this. But, hey, who am I to judge? I'm basically a demon's sidekick. Saya then took the ceramic flask and mixed his blood with the shaman's, sealing a small contract. He thanked her for a job well done and prepared to leave. Oh, you're already leaving? She asked with an enigmatic smile. Saya replied with an air of mystery, yes, I still have things to do. I'll come back next time when, I don't know, I lose another key. Or when I need a gourmet blood dish. She smiled and said, always so mysterious. What would I do without that touch of suspense? Now outside, Saya sat in his car, ready to go home. Fry, however, looked more uncomfortable than a wet cat. That place gives me the creeps. I swear next time I'll bring a bunch of incense. I never want to go back there. Saya looked at him with a smirk. Relax, Fry. The only danger there is the free Wi-Fi. Who cares about Wi-Fi, huh? Saya frowned. Why was he being so picky today? Fry grumbled. You and that woman are two perverts. Absolutely depraved. Saya sighed. What are you even saying? I just made a small cut on my arm. No big deal. Fry relented. Fine. No need to insist on it. So, where are we going now? Sayo answered, to the Ancient History Research Institute. That's where Minjun was murdered. Later, after driving for a while, they arrived at the institute. A building so tall it felt like a direct challenge to anyone afraid of heights. Without wasting time, Saya walked to the door and opened it with such force that even the building itself must have thought, whoa, is this a break-in? Fry sighed. Now that you have power, are you just barging into places? This is trespassing. Sayu ignored his concern. Don't worry. This building belongs to the Empire Guild. Si Jin bought and preserved it. Lucky for us, his younger brother took care of this place from the start. Deep down, Saya knew he wasn't the only one struggling to accept Minjun's death. Looking around, he could see memories of when they were all still together 10 years ago. Crouching down, he murmured, I need to see the memory of that day when Minjun was killed. Fry hesitated. Are you really going to use that ability? Sayo answered, yes. With a dramatic boom straight out of an action movie, he activated the mana remembrance ability. The place became surrounded by talismans. It looked like they were opening a portal to summon some supreme entity. Or worse than that, past due bills. The exact level of this ability was unknown, but by using it, the emotions experienced by the owner of the mana at a certain location could be reproduced. The clarity of the manifestation depended on the amount and quality of mana used as a medium. Basically, if the mana was weak, the memory would be blurrier than a selfie taken while running. Opening the flask he had taken from the shaman, Sayo combined its contents with his own blood in Minjun's mana-infused book. It almost looked like a Harry Potter potion recipe, except with no instruction manual. As the mana spread throughout the area, it began revealing the incident, faint memories of what had happened. Fry sighed. Is Sayu unable to see the memories clearly because his mana reserves are so small? If this were a game, his mana bar would have been flashing red ages ago. Sayu replied, there's nothing I can do. The mana remembrance ability doesn't show the target's memories, just their emotions. In other words, it was basically a high-level emotional detector like a telenovela drama meter, but without subtitles to make sense of what actually happened. Standing up, Sayu muttered to himself, the Minjun I knew was never a weak hunter. If this was done so quickly by a single person, it means the culprit was either insanely skilled, or a cheat-level player using hockey in single-player mode. Now carefully observing the vague memory, Sayu noticed that before dying, Minjun said a few words. He tried to piece together what Minjun was saying. He managed to see the letters V, I, and P. He questioned whether they were in the correct order. Suddenly, he also noticed that the culprit was wearing a veil, making their face nearly invisible. Classic mysterious villain move, hiding their face like they were dodging debt collectors. The culprit then spoke a word. Hierarchy. Now, piecing the puzzle together, Sayu wondered VIP and hierarchy. So Minjun wasn't just part of the research institute, he was part of an organization. Or maybe he was just trying to say he wanted a membership of Haikai Legend on YouTube. Noticing Sayu's expression, Fry asked if he was okay. Sayu wondered what Fry meant by that. Fry explained that back in the Demon Kingdom, Sayu always talked about his younger siblings and disciples. Even after 100 years, he never forgot them. The first thing he did upon arriving on Earth was search for them. And now, he had just watched his disciple die right before his eyes, completely unfazed. Did he have a heart of steel? Or was he just following the Batman method of dealing with trauma? Pretending he felt nothing and beating up criminals at night? Sayu ignored Fry. Instead, he commented that Frey's vocabulary was improving, asking where he had learned such words. Fry responded that he learned from X-Flix-Flix-Flix. X-Flix-Flix-Flix? What was that? Did anyone know? Because Sayu had no clue. Fry then continued, saying that right now, Sayu's emotions were so intense that they were making him nauseous. But he wasn't showing it on the surface. Or, was he simply unable to? Sayu answered that he was fine. After 100 years, his emotions were bound to collapse at some point. Basically, he was like Windows right before a crash. Speaking of which, my PC is totally bugging out. Anyone got a fix for that? Suddenly, the door creaked open. A man wearing a mask, clearly just an extra, called out to Sayu. You're Min Sayu, right? He scratched his head and added. Where the hell have you been wandering all day? Seriously, making things so damn troublesome? Yeah, this guy was definitely an NPC who just activated a side quest. Then, the extra continued. Anyway, just come quietly. Someone's dying to see you. But Sayu started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He realized the guy wasn't alone. He brought 6 goons. In other words, he was exactly the type of villain who only felt brave when surrounded by backup. Sayu looked at him and said, You act awfully arrogant for someone who walks around with 6 insignificant rats. The masked man frowned for a moment, surprised by the response. You're sharp, Sayu. To figure that out so quickly. That makes things easier. Then, he gave Sayu 2 options. Get tied up and come quietly. Resist and get cut before being dragged away, bleeding. The classic you can choose, but both choices suck scenario. Without wasting time, Sayu raised both hands and acted like he was surrendering. It's better to follow you willingly than to get cut down. At least, that's what he made it seem like. The leader, convinced, ordered his subordinates, tie him up. Yes, sir. One of the men stepped forward, and... Yeah, his body got split in half. Blood everywhere. A scene straight out of an R-rated movie. It's probably all blurred on your screen. Sorry, but YouTube won't allow it. With a malicious smile, Sayu said, Actually, I prefer the cutting option. Fry glanced at the remaining goons and made a casual remark. That was a mistake. But honestly, you're all a bunch of fools. The goons, now in full-blown panic mode, screamed and charged at Sayu, ready to kill him. But before they could do anything, a figure emerged from the shadows and ordered them to stop. It was Gert, from the Red Guild. From here on out, I'll take control.